Hello and welcome to another review of what I came across at the EICMA Expo in Milan, and this time I'll be taking a look at some more of the big names of the motorcycle industry, but these are actually manufacturers with perhaps some of the longest histories in the business. Royal Enfield for starters. This is an Indian company these days, but the brand originally kicked off making motorcycles all the way back in 1901 in Redditch in the UK, although now they operate out of Chennai in India. Royal Enfield has been doing exceptionally well in its home market, but over the past couple of years their ambitions have grown to include expansion on the international scene. They've been aggressive with their marketing as well, and I've bumped into them in locations as far-flung as the south of France and their beaches during Wheels and Waves Festival, at drag strips for the Sultans of Sprint races. They've even got themselves a class in the American Road Racing Championship, and they have been relentless about developing a customizing scene around the brand's bikes. When I stumbled across the stand at EICMA, it was several of these custom builds that immediately grabbed my attention. There was a couple of really lovely examples there, but I was actually visiting so that I could check out the latest factory offering, that is the Super Meteor 650 Cruiser. This latest addition to the twin-cylinder 650 range comes in two flavours, the standard Super Meteor and then the Tourer version, which gives you such niceties as a backrest for the passenger and a screen for some proper long-distance comfort, along with different foot pegs and handlebar and a set of panniers. Having never been a particular fan of cruisers, I've got to admit I wasn't expecting too much, but fair play. They do look good, I think, and from some angles, even very lovely. Low angle rear 3/4, it looks especially well proportioned. Obviously, we have the same basic ingredients as the Interceptor and Continental 650s, which means a 47 horsepower, 648cc parallel twin-cylinder engine with some new engine covers, redesigned chassis that gives the bike a lower stance, and there's an upside-down fork, LED headlamp and turn-by-turn navigation working through a simple but smart-looking dash. Moving from an Indian manufacturer to an American manufacturer that makes Indian motorcycles, yeah, sounds a bit weird, but Indian Motorcycle is another success story, a once defunct American brand that also began way back in 1901 and has been brought back to life by the Polaris Group and now competes and wins in various racing disciplines, from road racing to hill climbing and flat tracking, as well as finding time to produce a range of cruisers and street bikes that I, for one, really enjoy. As I said a moment ago, I'm no great fan of the cruiser genre, but when I do ride their offerings in this segment of the market, I'm always impressed. And as a rule, I don't suppose this is very politically and independently correct for a journalist, but I tend to prefer their performance, looks and build quality over what comes out of Harley-Davidson's factories these days. Not always, mind you, but I think it's fair to say it's usually the case. But it wasn't the cruisers I was particularly interested in at EICMA. I really wanted to check out the latest development of the FTR range. I rode and enjoyed this model when it was launched back in 2019, but it received a significant improvement this year when it abandoned the original 19-inch front and 18-inch rear wheel sizes in favour of a more standard pair of 17 inches. I've yet to ride this new setup, but talking to colleagues that I respect, it has apparently transformed the handling from being a bit on the remote side to bang on. And now the FTR 1200 feels like a genuinely capable sport naked bike. Capable enough, in fact, for it to have won this year's Super Hooligans Championship in America in the hands of Tyler O'Hara. And that wasn't the only road racing they were doing, because the monstrous racing bagger that Indian competed with in the Bagger Championship stateside was also on display at EICMA, as in fact were O'Hara and fellow Indian teammate Jeremy McWilliams at various points during the show. To celebrate that racing pedigree, Indian was showing off its newest addition to the FTR range, the FTR Sport. It comes with a headlight assembly that apes a number board, there's a belly pan and a single seat cowl. This level of trim puts it just above the standard FTR and the rally versions, but below the very desirable range-topping FTR Carbon R that I have to admit does look worth the extra asking price. There again, I am a weak-willed individual when it comes to bits of quality carbon fibre on a sport bike. Another brand that can trace its roots back to the early part of the 20th century, 1919 in fact, is Brough Superior, but much like Royal Enfield, its Britishness remains only in its history because the rights to the name have been reborn in a French company run by design guru Thierry Henriette. During 2019's EICMA show, the firm gave us its distinctive Aston Martin AMB 001 machine, and after they sold all of that limited production run, we have now been treated to the next iteration, that is the AMB 001 Pro, that has been inspired by Aston Martin's own super exotic Valkyrie AMR Pro car. The original turbocharged unit in the first bike was good for 180 horsepower, but with this engine having the crankcase machined from solid billet aluminium, can you believe, new cylinders and a repositioned exhaust among many other refinements, that power output has been boosted significantly to 222 horsepower. Not bad for a V-twin. The overall look of the bike is very similar to its predecessor, but there have been several changes to the aero package, including a new front spoiler and wings for extra downforce, and there are new vents for improved cooling in the front cowling and down the sides. There is also a stylish rear fin, and the rear wheel is now enclosed for improved aero properties, they say. Orders are already being taken, so if you want one, you'll have to hurry and then wait patiently for delivery towards the back end of next year for this hand-built special. Only 88 are being built, that limited number reflecting, I think, the 88-degree angle of the V in the V-twin engine. Price? No details available, and it's a case of if you have to ask. I suppose if you can afford the Valkyrie car, then this will just be the sort of money you've lost down the back of your sofa. The AMB 001 Pro wasn't the only new model that Brough Superior had on display, because they also revealed the Dagger. Great name. This is a more sporty version of their existing Lawrence. Yeah, it's called that to commemorate Brough Superior's most famous customer, who was Lawrence of Arabia, or more formally Thomas Edward Lawrence, who was an officer in the British Army during the First World War. That means a shed load of exquisite carbon fibre, a lower handlebar, 17-inch wheels and some tweaking of the chassis for a more involving ride. The exhaust has also been brought under the body of the bike, which will help weight distribution, but is undoubtedly somewhat less dramatic than the higher routing on the standard Lawrence. Details on pricing were again hard to come by, but given all that carbon, you've got to assume it'll command a premium over the €70,000 Lawrence, so expect to pay upwards of 1.2 million rand. And that's it for this particular EICMA report. There's plenty more from the world's biggest bike expo on this channel, so please have a look around, and perhaps I'll see you in another video. And I don't normally ask this, but if you enjoy even a little bit our content, could you please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing? It really does make a huge difference for us as we try to convince our YouTube algorithm overlord to share our videos a little bit more widely. Thanks, and cheers for now.